None of us are totally immune to the cultural trends of our time. We absorb them unwillingly, similarly to how we absorb a native language, simply by being immersed in them. Over the last few decades, there has been a sustained cultural effort to dissolve every distinction between man and woman, redefine the language we use to describe them, and quietly displace the order God established. The real danger lies not in the conditioning itself, but in the fact that most of us think that, because we hold to the Christian teaching on marriage, family, and the roles of men and women, we are safe from the cultural forces that seek to confuse us. But thinking that we're protected, ironically makes us more liable to be manipulated. Even the man who believes himself most resistant to feminist ideology has likely internalized some of its premises without ever noticing the moment they moved in. In this video, I'll share 5 of the most common ways in which this happens. At the end of it, we'll take a look at how you can actually eliminate these subtle feminist beliefs and truly resist the cultural forces of gender role confusion. Thinking that your woman should be less emotional. This is something that I recognized very strongly in myself some time ago. I found myself becoming frequently frustrated by the sensitivity of my girlfriend. I didn't understand why she made such a big deal of things that I considered trivial, and I tried to fix whatever was going on by suggesting that she be less emotional. I don't know if this has happened to you too, but in my experience, it happens to almost all men nowadays. This is a direct result of subtle feminist conditioning because it's a passive conviction that women should be more masculine, more similar to us. We think that if only they were less emotional, the relationship would flow better. Women are different than men. They experience emotions differently, they view the world differently, and they need different things. You and I know this rationally, but when it comes time to manage the emotions of the women that we love, we fall into the feminist trap of treating them as we would a male friend. We offer solutions and try to get them to toughen up, becoming frustrated when they don't, instead of offering the emotional stability and learning to provide them with the emotional safety that their feminine hearts require. Of course, there are times and situations when your girlfriend or wife can be excessively emotional, but most of the times, it's just her being a woman, with all the richness and complexity that real femininity carries. Carrying the burden of leadership in a relationship is a very difficult job. Our feminist era always focuses on the privileges of leadership and conveniently ignores all the pressures that come with it. What has happened as a consequence is that most men, in an attempt to be kinder, seek to share the role of leaders of their relationship with their women, unknowingly placing an unwanted burden on their shoulders. Every time you delegate a decision to your wife or girlfriend, no matter how small, you are tasking her with the weight of choosing. There are obviously times when this is the right decision, and in a properly ordered marriage, the woman will be responsible for making some important choices. More often than not, however, what I've seen, in myself and others, is simply cowardice disguised as prudence. A man is tasked with leading even in the small decisions. And contrary to what the feminist zeitgeist claims, when you act decisively, and when you try to avoid burdening your woman with making the important decisions, you are actually acting in a charitable way, giving her the space and freedom to thrive in her femininity. There's a feminist notion that has been internalized by the vast majority of the population, and that is that a person's value is primarily found in career output and measurable achievement. This is a premise feminism borrowed from a materialist, achievement-based view of human worth. Even though this is obviously opposed to our faith, many Christian men, including myself in many cases, have unknowingly absorbed this same metric, evaluating our own dignity by output rather than by our fidelity to God and by God's love for us. The feminist worldview is completely at odds with the Christian worldview. It focuses too strongly on the outside variables that surround a human life, instead of on the interior life, the pursuit of virtue, and the humility required to surrender the heart to Christ. In that sense, feminist ideas don't affect us just relationally. They can affect how we understand the most fundamental questions regarding human dignity and worth. If you find yourself letting your worth be determined by the titles you hold, the money you make, or how prestigious your career is, you've likely internalized the feminist idea that humans are only worth something when they make their career their #1 priority. In their romantic relationships, many men have adopted a sort of diva mindset, motivated by pickup artistry and manipulation tactics. They believe it's somehow cool or attractive to let women pursue them, instead of being proactive and leading the relationship from the get-go. To be clear, this has nothing to do with how effective such dating techniques are or aren't, but about whether or not they are right, and I believe they aren't. Even men who consider themselves countercultural in their approach to dating often carry this blind spot. The correct masculine way to approach a romantic relationship is to be direct, open, and honest about your intentions, and to be respectful and genuine. Not to play indirect games all the time so you can appear interesting and manipulate a woman through dishonesty. It's effeminate to avoid leading and to take a reactive, passive posture to courtship and expect to be the one pursued. You are the man, not her. It's become common amongst men to feel embarrassed or shallow for wanting a woman who is gentle, modest, supportive, and oriented toward the home. This is, in essence, an internalization of the feminist idea that traditional femininity is something to be ashamed of, and that a woman's value rises in direct proportion to how masculine she is and behaves. But wanting a virtuous, God-fearing woman is not at all shallow or something to be ashamed of. It's actually quite the opposite. It proves that you're willing to order your household the way God intended. Now, there's an important caveat here, and that is that you cannot simply demand standards of virtue without offering those same standards of virtue yourself. If you are asking God for a virtuous woman, make sure that you are striving to become a virtuous man. Maybe you recognized some of the earlier behaviors in your own life, or maybe you didn't. I definitely do. Which is why I've been thinking long and hard about how a man could possibly break free from a social conditioning that permeates every single area of our lives. The way to do it is, in my opinion, a 3-step process. Many times, on a certain level, we know we are letting the culture shape our mentality, but we choose to accept the inertia out of convenience. It's easier to be the man who shuns away from leadership, to avoid being labeled controlling or toxic, than it is to step up and proclaim boldly that you strive to be the leader of your family, and that you follow God's order instead of the world's. Thus, for any meaningful change to occur, we must begin by developing the guts to swim against the current. One of the reasons why feminist programming has been so effective is that we've been immersed by it, and it has been, if not the only, then at least the most prevalent, social order that we've come in contact with. We have therefore adopted a sort of Stockholm syndrome, in which we become familiar and attached to that which is most accessible. To break free from this, we need to study and learn about God's intended order for the sexes. Read the book of Genesis, and the entire Bible for that matter. Study St. John Paul II's theology of the body, and read about married saints to understand how they approached their relationships. Only by becoming familiar with a different, properly ordered way to live and think will we displace the thinking that we've adopted by osmosis from the world. This means not pursuing relationships that don't align to God's will for you, and living coherently, rejecting the things of the world that draw you away from holiness. This requires you to be absolutely radical in your choices, to stop consuming media and news with an agenda that goes against your faith and values, to avoid places where you know you'll be tempted, and to make a full commitment to living as a disciple of Christ. Christianity, if false, is of no importance, and if true, of infinite importance. The only thing it cannot be is moderately important. The only way to break free from the programming is to let God give you a brand new heart.